Okay, call to order this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Crescent City. It's November 3rd, 6 p.m. Clerk, please call roll call.
Councilmember Greeno,
I am here.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Here.
Mayor Altman.
Here, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Welcome this evening. Starting off the meeting this evening, we have two ceremonial items. We have two proclamations. The first proclamation is Veterans Day proclamation, and Council Member Jason Greenow is going to present that for us.
Well, thank
Sir?
you. Thank you, Mayor. It is an honor to read this proclamation in honor of our veterans, veterans from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, and now the Space Force. So we have more than just, although I don't see Space Force on here. Maybe that can be remedied in the future. But here's the proclamation from the City of Crescent City on behalf of our veterans. Whereas the City of Crescent City, on behalf of our community, wishes to recognize, honor, and thank those who have served and sacrificed for the country that we all love. And whereas the United States military is the strongest, most capable fighting force the world has ever known, the brave men and women of our Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard to demonstrate a resolute spirit and unparalleled commitment to defending our great nation and preserving the American way of life we hold sacred. And whereas Veterans Day began as Armistice Day, a holiday commemorating the end of World War I on November 11th, 1918, and was established as a national holiday by presidential proclamation and congressional resolution in 1954. And whereas Veterans Day serves as an observance of that commemorates our nation's thanks to all branches of the armed forces who have served at home and around the world. And whereas today over 2 million veterans live in California, among them are men and women who served in World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf War, and our recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as various smaller engagements and peacetime deployments. And whereas it is the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, along with their families, that make immeasurable sacrifices on the battlefield and at home, on the home front, to defend our freedom and protect this land. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Crescent City does recognize the theme for this Veterans Day 2025 as service to our nation. Veterans are proud of their military service and defending our nation, and honor reflects the military value and tradition of answering the call of duty. Service to the nation is a unified, ongoing commitment that transcends individual uniforms, battlefields, and generations. And be it further resolved, the City Council of the City of Crescent City appreciates all of our veterans, both living and gone, and urges all our citizens to do the same and to give full respect for the sacrifices made by these brave men and women. In honor of Veterans Day, November 11th, 2025.
Thank you, sir. Excellent job. And I will sign this as mayor, and as I understand it, it will be forwarded to David Cooper, commander of the VFW. Moving on to our next ceremonial item. Pro Tem Mayor Isaiah Wright has volunteered to read the Adoption Day proclamation. Thank you, sir.
I do always love reading this one. If you guys don't know, I have adopted two wonderful
little girls out of the foster system here in Del Norte County. Experience I definitely wouldn't trade for anything in the world, even though they're little buttheads. All right. Whereas November is National Adoption Awareness Month, and across the nation, more than 109,000 are waiting for adoptive families. And whereas youth leaving foster care without being adopted or without permanent connections face ongoing challenges with employment, education, and mental health, as well as an increased risk to homelessness and human trafficking. And whereas every child in Del Norte County, regardless of physical, medical, or emotional challenges, age, race, or sexual orientation, needs love, support, security, and a permanent place to call home. And whereas during Adoption Awareness Month, we celebrate all the families who have opened their homes to children through adoption, including all children and youth adopted from foster care in over a 2-decade period in Del Norte County. And whereas we also recognize those children and youth still waiting to join an adoptive family. And whereas the city of Crescent City is committed to supporting children in foster care waiting for adoption and supporting adoptive families through education services and support. Whereas this year's National Adoption Month has a special focus on older youth in foster care. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Crescent City, on behalf of all residents, does hereby proclaim the month of November 2025 as Adoption Awareness Month.
Thank you, sir. Excellent job. And as I understand it, I'm going to sign this proclamation and hand it back to Councilmember Wright.
I always, if it's available, I always take it if we don't have anybody to come back. And I always say, you know, 2 little girls call me and my wife mom and dad, and the depth and tragedy of that statement is not lost on me. Yeah.
There you are, Super Dad.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. I am going to read the public comment period rules. Any member of the audience is invited to address the city council on any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the city of Crescent City. Comments of public interest or on matters appearing on the agenda are accepted. Note, however, that the council is not able to undertake extended discussion or act on non-agendized items. Such items can be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on future agenda. All comments shall be directed towards the entire council. Any comments that are not at the podium are out of order and will not be a part of public record. After reviewing recognition from the mayor, please state your name and city or county residency for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. The public is additionally allotted 3 minutes each in which to speak on any item on the agenda prior to any action taken by the council. That said, do we have any public comment?
Boy, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
You know, I think that every single day, sir.
I have 2 items that I'd like to bring before the council this evening. One that Ion Del Norte is approaching 5,000 individual hits on its website. You might be interested in following along. It has a number of issues that are directly important to the community with regards to news. The second item is that Port of Coast Airport Authority, Regional Airport Authority, is bordering on the edge of insolvency. You may not be aware of that, but it most certainly is, and there is unlikely any way to salvage the airport from complete disaster. The reason I'm saying this is because I did pay attention to the last city council meeting where Sean, the airport director, came and gave his presentation. There was one item on the presentation, a picture of the current state of the runways at the airport, which showed the crocodile cracking in the on the surface of the tarmac. And what probably most of you should know is Del Norte County and most of the coastal areas are in fact wetlands. The underlying surface is a combination of sand, seawater, and rainwater. And it doesn't provide sufficient support for the runways at the airport at the current time. The current usage of 30-passenger, 20-ton jets landing regularly on the surface have created that cracking. Current estimations are that the new refurbished runway will probably last anywhere from 5 to 6 years before it disintegrates into the current state of the second unimproved runway. There's no way for the airport to incur the kind of income that would support refurbishing the runways that often. And if the city is going to be regularly approached by the authority for increased funding, which I seriously doubt that the city is going to be able to afford after a fairly short period, $600,000 for the remaining 4 FAA projects that are currently under review at the airport. The thought that improved employage and income could come from larger aircraft, a longer runway makes it impossible for the airport to accomplish. The smaller jets already exceed the loading capacity of the runway. And so therefore the airport authority has no way to improve their financial situation at this point. It's toast. And I would recommend that the city seriously consider removing themselves from part of the authority.
Thank you, Mr. Straight.
I understand part of the authority that you currently are engaged in, because it will do nothing but incur greater and greater amounts of money.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Council. My name is Megan McGlasson. I am on the Board of Trustees at the Del Norte County Special District Library, and I'm here to introduce our new Library Director, Beth Quishke. She comes to us with a master's degree in library sciences, experience working in an elementary school library as well as an academic university library in Oklahoma. She is commuting from Brookings to be with us every day, and we're really excited to have her on the team. And as you all know, our main branch is in your jurisdiction, so we just wanted to come and say hi and introduce her. And please stop by the library and have a chat. Right.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome aboard. Any further public comment? Okay, we're going to move along to our consent calendar. And item 1 this evening is the warrant claims list. Item 2 is the council meeting minutes. Item 3 is payroll report. Number 4 is budget to actual summary as of September 30th, 2025. Number 5 is quarterly cash and investments report as of September 30th, 2025. Number 6 is Amendment 1 to Task Order 1 for Plan Review Services. And number 7 is CCPD Officer Wellness and Mental Health Grant Budget Amendment. Does the council have any items they would like to pull from the consent calendar? Is there any public comment on consent calendar? Looking for a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar.
We have a motion. Looking for a second.
I will second that.
Clerk, please pull the vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Altman.
Yes. Okay, our next item this evening is new business. Item 8 on the agenda is Lower Elk Creek Wetland Enhancement. And we are going to receive a staff report and a presentation from Smith River Alliance.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Altman, members of the
Council, as you all are aware, we're very fortunate to have an amenity like Elk Creek that comes right through the middle of our town. Most communities don't have that type of amenity, and Fort Crescent City really goes unnoticed most of the time. You drive right through the S curve and you don't even really know that there is this beautiful Elk Creek that's right there, then the wetland that sits behind it. And so Grant and his team with Smith River Alliance have been working for several years, decades, towards looking at that and how can we improve that. And so recently there was a study that they completed. And this is a presentation on some of those future projects that could come of it and a request for a letter of support from City Council. So with that, I will turn it over to Grant Worskell.
Thank you, Manager, and counselors for your service. I think that was an excellent staff report that Andrew and Eric collaborated on that you have all received. I do have a PowerPoint, which I can go through very expeditiously. There will be a listening session, 2 of them on Thursday, but the point of this is to give you some advance, a FaceTime with it. And it also, I realize anytime that someone comes here before the council, it's also before the public. And we think it's so very important. Eric highlighted some of the points about Elk Creek, incredibly important resource for this community that, I wanted to take every opportunity we could to make sure to reach people so that they do attend those listening sessions and that so comments can be received. So here we have the first slide. And I will go through these quite quickly, but all the material is available through the staff report. There was a link to this report, and I just have pages out of the report, which I'll be sharing here. While this slide is up, though, I do just want to highlight coastal resilience. We're going to be coming back to that. If there's anything more important to the city in terms of when there is a major event, I'm talking about a tsunami or some type of event of that type, Elk Creek is an important resource which things can be done to help it be more, provide more in terms of coastal resilience. So you can see the black outline is the watershed area. And then that red outline is actually where the specific projects are being contemplated. That's 120 acres owned and managed by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And what's fascinating is you can look back and see, these are from the original report done with the help of Stillwater Sciences, and the city's been a very important member in the Technical Advisory Committee. These couple of slides show past overviews of what it was like. 1928, 65. And, here's some of the recreational activity that we see occurring in the area right now. Kind of existing conditions. And here, this is very important to that coastal resilience point. What's being pointed out here is there's been a lot of historic fill in the wetlands area in that particular property. And that means there's been levees and there's been historic fill, and those can constrain a tsunami type event, which means rather than it going into the wetland, it's spread out into the community. Very important point. Coastal resilience. Another view of it. Now we're in the watershed and we're looking out. This features, though, over to the right, you can see how wetlands can really buffer storm surges. Hugely important. I think there's some nice points made here. And that last paragraph on the right, how the wildlife area can remain dry during a storm event. And if there were important restoration efforts, it could accommodate more of that storm event, improving coastal resilience. community resources at risk, you know, in a way, it's listing about everything there. This is a video that was taken by a Department of Fish and Wildlife person, Jolien Walkley, who resides here in the county. Obviously, I'm not playing the video, but you can see presently the challenge there. I'll go on to the next slide. So these are some of the investments. Many of you are aware of these because many of you have lived in the community a long time. And again, if you wish to go back and look at these more carefully, they are in the report. Again, back to the red outlined area, 420 acres. Some of the additional research and surveys that have been completed. Fish habitat utilization, what's interesting, you could say there's parallel benefits to fisheries. And I'm speaking of native fisheries like salmon by restoring wetlands. And maybe on this slide, it's appropriate for me to say, just in this last construction season, the Smith River Alliance partnered with 3 different private landowners, and we completed major habitat restoration on some of those in private land upper reaches. A number of projects have been identified and then ranked. The Technical Advisory Committee, which the city sits on, has participated in that. And here's the goals: expanding the off-channel habitat and improve floodplain connectivity, enhance wetland and riparian habitats, and of course, improve the coastal resiliency, which we're saying is so very important. And then the feasibility of restoring public access. Now, there's 3 alternatives, and this very quickly highlights some of the differences. However, I just want to point out every one of those alternatives definitely has benefits in terms of coastal resilience, and that's a key point. I'm going to go through again very quickly here the 3 alternatives. 1, this is 2. You can see there's a lot more activity out there in terms of restoring channels. And then 3.
Grant, can you explain what we're looking at on that slide, please?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you explain what we're looking at on that slide for the public's good? On that map?
Let me see if I can go back to the previous. What you are looking at, areas right now which have been filled in would be excavated to restore more like the original and native channels that would have occurred. What that does is that increases capacity to accept stormwater and then natural tidal events. So you can see there's some island areas, but there's a lot of fill that was historically put in there would be removed to expand those areas so they could accommodate more of the natural tidal flow and then also a special type of storm event. There is more detail in terms of, recreation opportunities with each of these alternatives, which I may not be the best person to go into, but the alternatives differ in that way too. There can be more recreation opportunities. So that's one of the reasons it's so very important to have the public participate as well as other stakeholders so that everybody gets to really weigh in and kind of share, what their feelings and thoughts are. Is that good enough for this?
I appreciate you explaining this to us. What's the plan to with all that fill that you're pulling out? Where is it going to go?
That's a very good question. And it's a question asked by a man. It's like, all right, now what?
Right.
It has to be removed to a location that would not be inundated and cause a problem in a future event. And, you know, I would just say that that would need to be determined, but you're always looking for something proximate because of hauling cost. But you need to have it out of where you want a tidal event or a tsunami event to really go in and fill up. So you can have that get filled up and not out in your built community. And, you know, and I want to thank you for your question and kind of drawing attention to it. And I just want to mention, if people here, as counselors and anybody in the audience have not seen that New Yorker article, the title is The Really Big One. It's in the New Yorker. If you just Google it, and seismologists, the experts that we have participated in that, and it talks about we are right now at a date when is it timely that it could happen. The last one was I'm sorry to say it, but it was 700 years ago was the last big one, but it would be the largest event of that type in this part of North America. So, I mean, they talk about how huge the San Francisco earthquake was. This is huge. And I do want to say that we have invited the Office of Emergency Services to be participating in those listening sessions. And, you know, they've participated as well. This is probably of less immediate concern to the city, but invasive plants, recreation, of course. And what will be happening in the listening sessions is there will be a breakout into small groups. And so people will really have a chance to engage more and share their personal experiences. And particularly when you start thinking about some of the recreation opportunities that could be possible with this, it's so very important. The bird watching opportunities out here are extraordinary. And that is a very, very important recreation activity that happens around the United States. People will come for that. So what I've just done is kind of a highlight of some of the slides that will be used during the listening sessions. But if you want to dive in on any of it further, that is available through our website or through the attachment that I think the city engineer provided with the particular report. And then it's 2 to 4 on Thursday at the fairgrounds or 6 to 8. And please RSVP if you're able to come. And if you're not able to come, there is a QR code on the bottom of the flyer that would allow anybody to participate in a survey and to share your thoughts and comments. And again, on the recreation side, there's a lot of really interesting opportunities. And, you know, I've had some conversations with some of you already about some communities have really observed when you have recreation people out there more, it actually helps in terms of a policing issue. People have their phones, they're participating, they see somebody illegally dumping. Guess what? That person gets turned in. And it is, Elk Creek as an urban stream is really something special. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And then I know Eric knows a lot about this as well.
I do have a comment, and you just touched on it. I care very much about the environmental and safety factors of this project. I'm very supportive of that. But I also, I'm going to just say economics. You know, I grew up in Reading in a neighborhood that was really close to the Sacramento River and the railroad tracks at that time. And as children, we were told we were not allowed to go down there. It was dangerous, theoretically. But they put in the Sacramento River Trail, and it totally turned around. Now along the Sacramento River, instead of being the place you tell your kids not to go, it's because there's always bikers there. there, just, there's always walkers, people walking their dogs. It is very, very safe. It also has been an enormous opportunity in Reading to teach people who might not have the environmental connections or education about the river itself, non-natives, all the things that you're talking about. But the biggest obvious maybe thing is that it was a huge economic boom for Reading. Putting that river trail in made a huge difference. And I also saw the same thing living in Sacramento for a while at the American River Trail, same thing. And when I lived in Naples, Florida, I no longer remember the name of the creek, but there was a creek that ran right through Naples and you couldn't really get to it and you didn't want to, and they made a trail along it. People gathered, it again became safe place. It became a big economic draw. That's where you went to ride your bikes. So I just have seen in my personal circumstance, life, over and over again, how not only is it the right thing environmentally, safety in the big picture, tsunamis in our case, but economically it can be a real driver. And so I think it's a win-win personally.
I can't thank you enough for your personal testimonial. I completely agree. And I do want to mention former Mayor Blake Inscore. He was so passionate about this. And he brought to my attention a couple special wetland areas, which I did not point out on the map. They're outside of this initial project area, but more proximate to Home Depot, where he had been in another community on a boardwalk, and he saw this can happen right here. So Candace, Counselor, thank you so much. It's just great. And I just want to emphasize exciting opportunities. Yeah.
So, I have a few questions, Grant. What is the current land designation for this area and land and use designation?
For the area where the project is just contemplated, it's owned and managed by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. It is known as the Elk Creek Wetlands Wildlife Area. So in a way, it's a very fortunate thing. That owner, they're very interested in the restoration of it. They see the coastal resilience opportunity for the city. They see the recreation. But in that regard, it's simplified. There's one owner. So that's the answer to that question.
Okay. So with that, what are the current restrictions on that area, and what is the hope in the future to alleviate some of that restriction? Are there?
Well, I would say in terms of restrictions, they, as in the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, they do anticipate all of the normal permitting that is required for other agencies. It's, facilitated, of course, because they issue permits too on other projects, but there would need to be permitting done on the alternative that is selected. And I would expect that could happen quite expeditiously. Once there is consensus among the Technical Advisory Committee and the public's had a chance to weigh in, I think things could happen, relatively speaking, quite quickly. But it is, I think, really expedited because you have one agency, and that agency is a public trust agency that does issue permits as well.
Okay. Do you have a potential funding source for this project that you're looking towards?
Certainly. Presently, work on these projects has been from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and also the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. So those are both continued funders. NOAA would also be a funder. When you have important resources, those salmonid species, that helps with funding, but in particular, coastal resilience, huge. I mean, that in a way improves your competitiveness for funding. So it would be public funding for sure. And, when we think, and I want to compliment the city engineer, Andrew Layton, who's been participating as a technical advisory committee member. He points out very quickly, hey, you've got 101 right there too, that needs to be dealt with, right? And so it's an intersection of important infrastructure that, you know, is really very in the forefront of the mind of the city. And, you know, businesses that are relying on the city to, let's figure this out ahead of time as much as we can.
Okay,
Public funding, though.
okay, for sure. Thank you. I have one more. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, every question is a good question.
So, you had spoken about the potential for some recreational opportunities. And what do you think this could be open to? It's not that large of a body of water. Would it be, fishing or just hiking and bird watching? I know those were a couple of things that you had said in the past. What kind of, recreation opportunities in the future would this open up the city to?
Well, all
Or the
things-
people here?
all the things that you mentioned. And then, you know, the person that shows up, they're in town for a couple days, they travel with their dog, they want to have a place to walk the dog and at the same time be around nature. Boom. Elk Creek, right there. How many hotels and motels are proximate to this? I mean, literally, you don't even have to drive your car in some cases. You know, there could be trails set up. So just, you know, that list of walking, biking, bird watching, you're with your animal, education. We just hosted last week a group of high school students that have been working with us on some cleanups. And there was an education program in the classroom first, and then about 20 or 30 of them then came out and helped with the cleanup. You know, you can go on in terms of the different opportunities. And I think it's incumbent on our team, our larger team, you know, the city and others to be aware of it and promote it. But you do need to have some infrastructure in place for people to walk, to feel safe and secure. And these opportunities through the three projects that are being contemplated do provide those opportunities.
So a walking path is included in that potentially?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Particularly the two of the options have more walking path than the first. And that's where we do hope to hear from the public about it too.
All right, thank you.
Grant, just to add on to that a little bit, this project was listed in the city's Economic Development Strategic Action Plan that was adopted in 2021. And really looking at some of that tourism-based economy and that unique experience that you can have right in the middle of Crescent City with this urban experience where you can actually get out in nature. One of those things was to develop a trailhead and a kayak launching point as well. You can actually kayak Elk Creek, and so it is narrow, but you can actually do that and make your way up Elk Creek when the tides are right. And I haven't done it personally, but I've heard it's an absolutely amazing experience when the conditions.
And there were a couple photographs in there talking about it. And, you know, in a way, listening to Councilor Tinkler and then Eric, you know, it's the same thing. It's what on the Upper Sacramento was the experience. And I also lived in Sacramento and observed the incredible use on the American River bike trail. And of course, the river sees a lot of paddling, but just amazing how it really changed an area from, oh, it's a little hazardous, we shouldn't go here, to it's all of a sudden, hey, watch out for all the bicycles and all the people that are on that bike trail. So some very exciting opportunities.
Then granted, there's also a lot of history, as you showed with some of those early photos of Elk Creek being used, as well as the original Kelsey Trail, I believe, started right in the same location. Is that part of this to develop that trailhead and eventually the Kelsey Trail going up?
That certainly could be, and I didn't get into that level of detail, but those are all things that will be considered and are options.
Okay, so it mentions some listening sessions on this Thursday?
Yes, this Thursday, 2 to 4, and then 6 to 8, that will be at the fairgrounds. And so there will be an initial presentation and then time for those participants to break out into smaller groups to share their ideas and and to really engage further in the process.
Okay, so, what method can people find out about the schedule for the listening session? Is it online somewhere or?
It is.
advertise or?
And I think, did Andrews, so there'd be multiple ways. First, there is a flyer, just a one-page flyer, which I could see would be sent to every one of you. And it has a QR code. If you're not able to attend, you could still participate via survey. But then it also has the times on Thursday of those 2 listening sessions, and it has a way to RSVP. And the RSVP is very helpful to us because we are providing food. So what I will personally do is make sure that each one of you receives that flyer. It is on our website under Elk Creek, and you could access it there, but I will make sure and send it to each one of you. And if there's others that you know that would be interested, that you would like to forward it to, I'd be very grateful if you would.
Could you send that to Mr. Weir so that we can get that online on our Facebook page?
And I believe actually our Director of Recreation, Kelly Fiola, already has it online, posted it maybe yesterday,
Oh.
today.
I didn't see it.
Uh,
Okay.
Week.
Oh,
Well,
good
good.
job.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
All right.
So does that mean, should I still send one individually to each of you?
I don't think that's necessary.
Really? Way to go.
Okay. That's what I was concerned because it's right this Thursday already.
Yes.
Make sure everyone knows about
So
it.
I'm doing a spot interview with the radio stations on Thursday, and the Chamber's got it posted. So, I think we're getting it out there,
Good.
and we need to.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, is there any public comment on this item? And, like Mr. Straight, say something?
I can see that this is probably a done deal, but I mean, all of the recreational activities that I saw are readily available here in the county without expending a single dime. I'm wondering how much this extravaganza is going to cost the public because nothing is free. I'm wondering how much it's going to take away from the current activity in Beachfront Park, because you already have a significant investment in Beachfront Park, which provides a wealth of activities for tourists, walking, riding your bike, and a number of other things. I'm not opposed to this. I mean, it's probably a great way to utilize that piece of property, but I mean, at great expense. I have difficulty with that invariably when it comes to activities that are trumpeted as being beneficial to the community. I mean, I am wondering whether people even bother to consider that. The city of Portland actually tried to rehabilitate parts of the Clackamas River, and it was to include all of the things that have been described except for coastal resiliency, because obviously Portland is not on the coast. What the rehabilitation of the Clackamas River did to the county is it attracted an absolute mob scene in all of the various places that you could go into the area described. It also populated the entire area with a wealth of homeless encampments. It also populated the area with a wealth of crime, and it didn't turn out very well for the city of Portland. So I would hope that you'd take that into consideration, because we already have problems here locally with crime and homelessness and a variety of other less than appealing problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your public comment. Any further public comment this evening on item 8? Not seeing any further public comment, looking for a motion to approve a letter to Smith River Alliance from the city council endorsing the Lower Elk Creek Wetland Enhancement Project.
So moved.
We
I
have,
second.
thank you. Clerk, please pull the vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Can we discuss a couple things about, I mean, there's some pretty compelling points that were brought up by Mr. Straight, and it would be helpful, I think, to the public to have some conversations.
You want
about
to
some of
open
the-
up council
some of the
discussion
state-
again?
If I'd
It's
appreciate that.
open.
So as far as safety concerns, that's outside the city's jurisdiction. Is that correct, Mr. Ware?
Parts of it are in, I believe, and parts of it are out.
I actually thought it might be a good idea for me to follow up Mr. Straight's comments. I want to underscore the coastal resilience point. Okay, let's just put recreation over here. Every one of the alternatives, every one of them improves the coastal resilience of this city. Why is that? I showed slides of how there have been levees built and wetlands filled. Those levees and those filled wetlands impede a tsunami or a flood flow event from going into what were previously wetlands that would have held and taken more water. And I'm hoping that makes sense to you. So please understand, coastal resilience is number one. Every of the three alternatives has a major investment in improving the coastal resilience of Crescent City. I showed a slide of all the facilities and agencies that would suffer inundation in a major event. Now, I'm not saying that by doing this project, those threats are totally removed. But what I am saying is the best engineers have designed a project that will ameliorate the types of very, very tragic and important impacts on this community by restoring those wetlands and allowing them to do what wetlands do.
And city manager, we've already incorporated this in a 2021 plan. What's the name of that plan again?
So it's not exactly these projects that are talked about, but utilizing Elk Creek, these wetland areas for really, in that plan, it was economic development and how this is an underutilized amenity. And so they were talking about the bird watching, talking about kayaks, talking about trails. And now you have this urban stream that's right in the middle of our town that really can be a unique amenity to drive economic development. So economic development, strategic action.
So that would be the more recreation side, whereas what Grant is speaking of is more of a flood resiliency plan to restore it to its natural state where it did absorb a lot of flood events, right?
And I think Grant's speaking to both, right? Where the economic development plan didn't really address the fact that, yes, this would help with inundation. And like Mr. Worskell had talked about, this isn't going to prevent a Cascadia tsunami or even a 1964 tsunami from major impacts to our community. You know, a tidal wave event is a devastating event that's going to carry with it a huge volume of water. Can it still help? Sure, any capacity would help, right? But it's not going to alleviate that event. I really do think though, on like a storm surge type of event, something like that, right? That's where it can really add that additional capacity and be able to assist on that side. So there's that piece of it, which this will help, and just restoring it back to the way it was historically, I believe is really what Mr. Worskell is trying to drive at, where there have been these levees and these dams built impeding that water that then forced it into town. And then you have the recreation economic development side, and that's what the other study is talking about. So Grant, I think, is trying to address both. This project will address both.
I guess I have one question, and that's for Chief Griffin. Do you think that there would be any issues for our police department to respond to any emergency situations in this area if this project went through?
So you're talking jurisdiction wise, if you take the backside or would be the south end of the Renner building and then go kind of northeast to the backside of Juvenile Hall, that's where the city limit line is. It ends at the trailhead there, but it's overlapping jurisdiction, so it's state property. So we don't do a lot of enforcement on there because it's state property, fish and game. And then CHP, kind of like the fairgrounds, even though it's in city limits, that's state property, so that's policed by CHP first, and then we would come in if they are not available or anything. There's no issue with, it would help us get through there if there's more trailheads and everything, if we're assisting accessing through there, through the homeless encampments past the trailhead, everything. But there's a very small portion jurisdiction wise that we'd actually be responsible for right there.
Okay,
I don't see an issue with it. I don't see a problem with the project itself at all.
thank you. All right. I'm pleased with it.
Okay. And we already have a motion and second. Clerk, please pull the vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Altman.
Yes. Letter so endorsed. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 9 of the agenda, accessory dwelling units regulations update, and we have a staff report from City Attorney Rice.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I come to you tonight with an ordinance that will update Chapter 17.35 of the Municipal Code, which sets forth the city's accessory dwelling units regulations. This update to the ordinance and the chapter was put together by Ethan Lawton and the folks at SHN, who worked with the Planning Commission in getting these updates moved through to this point where the city council is considering them. These updates are in reaction to changes in state law. So these aren't changes that are really policy directives or policy suggestions from the Planning Commission. These are all updates to state law that we are now suggesting the council make in order to make our regulations fully compliant. What this does is, well, for one, the state decided to recodify under a new section of the government code. So all of our cross-references to the government code were now incorrect. So it updates all those cross-references. In addition, there's several new definitions. They redefined or tweaked the definitions of a lot of terms, including junior accessory dwelling unit, livable space, multifamily dwelling, and efficiency unit. And then there were some changes in state law to more substantive provisions, including setback requirements in instances when there is an extension of an existing structure. Basically just clarifies that the extension of the structure just has to meet the setbacks of that structure. Also increases height limits if the development is within a half mile of a major transit stop. Redefines the statewide exemption ADU types, really just tweaking them a little bit. Most significantly is that existing multifamily dwellings can now have up to 8 detached ADUs on a lot. However, it can't have more than the number of units already on the lot. So if it's a duplex, it can have 2 detached units. But if it was a 4-plex, it could have 4 detached units. If it was an 8-plex or more, it could have 8 detached units. So that's probably the biggest substantive change. However, given the lot sizes in Crescent City and our current multifamily units, it's probably not an issue that will actually affect us. Once this ordinance is introduced and adopted, we will have to send it to the Department of Housing and Community Development when they will go over it with a fine tooth comb and make sure we are fully compliant. So it's possible that we would come back with future revisions, but we're hoping that won't be necessary as we've caught all the updates. However, state law does continue to evolve on the subject, so we'll probably be back next year with additional updates. And Ethan Lawton, the city's contract planner, is, I believe, joining us via Zoom if you have any questions for him.
Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I understand that this is, my understanding is this is to make us in compliance with state law.
Correct.
And, yeah. I did have, and I see some positive things, you know, it seems like, for example, when it now defines that a livable space must include a closet, kitchen sink, et cetera. I thought, you know, those are some positive things for the people dwelling there. But I am, as always, as I was when I was on the planning commission, concerned about parking. And the fact that there says there's no off-street parking requirements. So you add 8 units and now your neighborhood has people on the street parking. I'm concerned about that. And the other thing I think I'm understanding is that these would only be for renting for, it says include permanent provisions for living. So is that what I couldn't quite, and I apologize, understand is, could these additional units then be turned into short-term rentals, or will these actually provide long-term rental spaces for citizens of Crescent City?
So currently, the code requires that they only be used for long-term rentals, that short-term rentals are not currently allowed.
Yeah.
Until this chapter is changed by the council. So that was something that was discussed when this was originally adopted, and that the city council basically determined that the reason behind the law was to create more housing. And so to allow those to be turned all into short-term rentals did not help the policy directive behind the law. So.
Okay, thank you.
I think the parking issue could be directed to Ethan as, would these ADUs be subject to conditions of approval like any other, permitting? Is Ethan able to answer that?
Yes, good evening. I'm assuming everyone can hear me okay? Yes, the state said essentially that they would waive all the parking for the benefit of housing. So the state is saying they would rather have a parking problem than a housing problem. And so a lot of their updates have kind of reinforced that position of being worried more about housing than the impacts of the housing, i.e. the parking.
Thank you, sir. Your answer. Any further questions from the council?
This is in essence a cleanup job for our code. If we aren't in compliance, are there consequences?
Yes, Ethan, what are some of the consequences if we're not compliant?
There's no real harsh requirements as of yet, but the way the state is trending is there would potentially be fines that could be levied. There could be, we could get dinged on it in regards to our housing element updates, our annual reports, our pro-housing designation that the city currently has, funding sources could be dinged as well as part of being out of compliance. And some jurisdictions have a reference to the state code instead of laying it all out like we do. But we decided to make it easier for developers, for funders, for renters, and for staff to interpret the state law. And so that is the direction that we took in regards to making it more reader friendly and digestible.
Thank you.
And Ethan, just to follow up a little bit, this was a requirement from the state and needs to be enacted before the end of the calendar year to be in compliance. Is that correct?
Yes, we were contacted by the policy enforcement branch, which is new, and they are getting more and more authority and teeth. And they contacted me and asked about our ordinance. I provided it. They said it was out of date. I said we will update it in the future. They said it's not good enough. They need it updated by the new year. And so that was the timeline that we took and implemented, and how it got before you tonight, in hopes that we get it adopted by the new year.
Then in regard to funding, like you said, it is or could be tied to our pro-housing designation. That designation did result in the city receiving approximately $650,000 in funding for housing projects. In fact, that RFP just closed that we put out for potential developers. So we ended up combining those funds with the with some PLHA funding that we had, the permanent local housing allocation. So we have just under $1 million. We received 4 applications for housing developments in various ways, shapes, and forms. And so we're going to be reviewing those at a staff level. And at our next meeting, those projects will be before the council with the recommendation of awarding those funds. So there has been some real dollars tied to that. How closely this ties to us having that revoked remains to be seen. But like Ethan said, they did reach out directly to us to make sure that we were going to be in compliance.
Further questions from the council? Seeing no further questions, thank you, City Attorney Rice and Mr. Lawton, for your answers. And I will now ask if there's any questions or public comment. Any public comment? Okay, looks like we're looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to waive full reading, read by title only, and introduce ordinance number 859, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Crescent City, amending chapter 17.35 accessory dwelling units of title 17 zoning of the Crescent City Municipal Code.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Clerk, please vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Altman.
Yes. So I hope that helps us meet our end of the year timeline.
One step closer. So that's the introduction, and then there will come back to the council for adoption. And that will met the time frame.
Okay, hope we meet that deadline. Okay, number 10 tonight on the agenda is city council vacancy. And City Attorney Rice.
Good evening. So following our last council meeting, we did have Councilmember Dooley resigned his position as a member of the council. Per the municipal code and state law, the city council now needs to decide how to fill that vacancy. You have 2 basic options. One is to appoint an individual. Given the timing, that appointment would only last until November of 2026, at which time there would be an election to fill the last 2 years of that term. Alternatively, the city council could hold a special election to fill the vacancy, and in that case, the person would fill the remainder of the term. The special election could be held as a mail ballot only in the spring. The other alternative to have an in-person election is during the November 2026 election. So you have 3 choices. You can appoint tonight, or not appoint tonight, but decide to appoint, hold a application period, do interviews, make an appointment, and that person will serve until November of 26. Or you can decide to hold a special election in the spring by mail, or you can decide to leave basically the position vacant until November of 2026.
Questions from the council?
I don't have any questions, but I don't think it would be right to leave a seat vacant for what, almost a year.
Mhm. It'll be a
That's
year.
that's not responsible. I would opt to appoint a person.
Same here. I think the cost of doing a special election's not anything I want to incur in the city. So appointment.
Yeah, am I understanding correctly that of the three options, it's the special election that would be costing taxpayers $33,000 to $40,000?
Yeah, that would be I believe that would be the special election, the standalone special election. If we did it in November, it would be the same costs, whether the seat was vacant or
Okay,
not, so.
I think we have consensus on this.
And just to clarify, Mayor and the council, so the council did choose to appoint for the basically 1 year period until November 2026. Staff would then put out some sort of advertisement almost immediately. That would be out for about 4 weeks or so. There'd probably be interviews maybe the first week of December, and then action would be taken by the council. The second meeting in December, I think is what we talked about, December 15th.
Yes,
Or they would be
yeah, that
scheduled
would be
at
the
that time. So
timeline.
it's in that time.
Anything further from the council? Thank you, City Attorney Rice. Any public comment on this item?
Just some observations. I agree that a special election would cost the city unreasonable amount of money just for that 6-month period. As far as appointing someone, the problem I see there is currently the council, virtually all your decisions are unanimous. And the fact that you have one less person on the committee, on the council to ensure that the count remains 5-0 instead of 4-0 doesn't seem to make much sense to me to appoint somebody who is going to have to run for office in November of 2026 anyway. So it would seem like the most sensible move for the council would be to punt and wait till November of 26 and see who the people decide they want to have representing them rather than some sort of administrative appointment where I suspect very few of the people that this new appointee is going to represent are the choice of the ward or whatever designation that you have amounts to for that representative. I would think that the November 26th period is of 2026, sorry, would be the most appropriate way to go about replacing your councilman. Thank you.
Sir, do you mind stating your name and residency to the council for the record?
Sorry, I'll apologize. I'm Sam Straight, and I'm a resident of the county.
Thank
And
you,
I
sir.
will point out that the city does have a fair amount of impact on what county residents have to address. So it's important for the county to be aware, or residents of the county to be aware of what the city does. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Okay, seeing no more public comment or anything from the council. Oh, you have something?
One of them, I think also important economic factors to consider is for people and winters here in Del Norte, even spring with flu season and things. It could very quickly, with only 4 people here, if we did not fill this appointment by appointment. My concern is that we would get in a situation through illness or some unforeseen circumstance where we just don't have enough people. 2 of us are, only available, and that's going to cost the taxpayers money because then we cancel meetings and et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of feel there's an economic reason, but also just more more there's an efficiency reason to it. We have such often full agendas that, you know, missing a meeting just is not really to me practical. And it doesn't further along our goals and our visions. So I just really don't see it being all that practical to not do an appointment.
I've been sick 4 times since August. I work with kindergartners. Case in point.
And we do have a responsibility to represent the citizens of Crescent City. Well, as fully as possible.
And not just that, whoever is appointed will have to go to election in 2026, November 2026 anyway. So that person will be in essence confirmed, or they will be replaced by whoever the people decide.
Mayor, if I could make one clarification.
Yeah.
In response to Mr. Straight's comment, just to clarify that all council members are elected at large. There are no wards or precincts. Just, yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. If there are no further comments, looking for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we fill the vacant council position by appointment. And please do all the necessary advertisements for this position.
We have a motion.
I second.
Clerk, please pull the vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Altman.
Yes. Okay, looks like we're on our last piece of new business tonight. Agenda item 11 is selection of mayor and mayor pro tempore. Here is staff report.
As actually, I'll turn this one over to our city clerk, who has traditionally taken this item.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'll just make it really short and sweet. This is that time of year where we select our next mayor and mayor pro tempore. And so basically the process is that the mayor is selected first by way of nomination. The person is nominated and they accept or deny that nomination. If there are more nominations on the floor, those will accompany motions. You will have the first motion and the second motion. The second motion would be voted on first, and then you would go to the first motion. So that would determine whether or not that person is appointed to that position. Same thing for the mayor pro tem. They make the nomination, accept or deny, and then do the motion process. There doesn't have to be more than one motion on the floor. It can, it's whatever you guys choose. Any questions?
Any questions
you.
from the council?
Those are called Robert's Rules of Order, yeah? Or Rosenberg? Wait, what's Robert's Rules of Order then? Now that I'm,
It's much more complicated.
oh, okay, very good.
And that's concerning parliamentary rule. Okay, so any technical questions from the council on this item? Any public comment on this item? There's nothing further from the council. I would like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Isaiah Wright for the next mayor.
And I'll accept that.
I'll second that nomination.
Thank you, sir. Are there any further nominations for mayor from the council? Seeing none, clerk, will you pull a vote?
Yes, Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
It's too late to say no. Just kidding. Yeah, yes.
Mayor Altman.
Yes. The next item for selection of mayor pro tem, I'd like to nominate council member Candace Tinkler. That's my motion. You accept?
Yes.
We're looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations for pro tem mayor from the council? Seeing no other nominations, clerk, please pull the vote.
Councilmember Greeno,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinkler,
I vote for myself.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do.
Seems weird. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Altman. And just for clarification purposes, just to make a nice smooth transition. Mayor Altman will continue as mayor until the end of this meeting, and then you'll take over for the next one, so we can just have a smooth.
Very good. Makes
Thank
things
you for
better than
that.
playing shuffleboard with the seats.
Yes.
Thanks for
We've done
that
that before.
clarification.
You're welcome.
It has been a pleasure to serve this city in the capacity of mayor this last year. And I look forward to continue to serve on. Okay, moving on to reports, concerns, referrals. Does the council have anything to report out on?
So just that we are in a government shutdown right now, and we have been for almost a month. And it's, I think, causing some problems with some of our grants. I believe that at our next meeting, we should have a discussion about talking to our senators, because our senators have both decided to continue to vote to keep the government shut down in this state. So we at least need to have a discussion about communicating with them to hopefully get this fixed if it is still shut down by our next meeting, in my opinion.
Is that a request for an agenda item?
Yes, it is.
City manager?
Well, just clarification, then you're looking for a report from us as to impacts we're seeing now or possibly future impacts.
Mhm.
As you know, Housing Authority is federally funded, although those funds for North Housing Director have been secured for at least this next month. And then we will see, what happens in the future. Grant impacts, it does vary by funding source. And so we can bring that back to see what we're actually seeing on that front.
So what I would like to see is a report citywide of what's being affected. I know SNAP benefits are being affected right now, which is a big problem in our community for quite a few families. HUD can be affected by this, right? So these are some pretty big issues, life-altering issues for people. There's also people that are on the federal employed with the federal government that aren't getting paid in our community as well, which these are livelihoods we're talking about here. So we need to get this fixed quickly.
Yeah, I certainly agree. There are impacts. There's even the impact to the airport with the essential air service funding. And what does that outlook look like? There's been some extensions on those fronts, but at least identifying some of those areas. A lot of those areas aren't directly through the city, but we can try to make some outreach, see what information we can bring back to the council. And certainly the areas that are within our purview, we'll be able to give.
And I also would like us to draft a letter to have it ready if in fact the council decides to send a letter to both of our senators.
This would
talking about the issues like SNAP being shut down still and other issues concerning
urging them to
open up the government and vote to open up the government.
City manager, do you have enough clarification on that agenda item to go forward?
I have enough information that we just need consensus from the council.
Okay, we have consensus from the council on this agenda item.
I certainly have concerns if we are suggesting that we are going to be taking one political position over another. I don't think that's our role. I don't think that represents our community. I certainly agree that it's not doing any good for anyone to be in government shutdown, but I have real concerns in making sure that we're not going to be, there's no political motivation behind this.
My motivation behind this is that people get fed, people can live their lives, and people can get paid for their work. That's not a political position.
You have council consensus or no? Agenda item to be added on our next meeting on November 17th.
I'm fine personally with it being added.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, I agree. It can be added to the agenda.
Bring back the least the impacts that we're seeing, some of the concerns to the extent that we can. Again, not all these services are city services. Try to do some outreach to figure out what those impacts are. And then the council can direct us as necessary and appropriate in regard to the letter.
Yeah, I'm confident in that this council can move forward in good faith and remain nonpartisan. Okay, all right. Any other reporting out from the council? Okay, that leaves City Attorney Rice on legislative matters.
No requests this evening.
Okay. And next is the city manager report.
Mayor Altman, your favorite time of the meeting. No, I just do want to take just a few moments and thank you, sir. You've done a remarkable job, I think, as mayor this year. Hasn't been the easiest of years, but we have had a lot of successes to celebrate. Pebble Beach Drive was one of them. The reopening of the pool, right? Seeing Front Street progress and contracts be awarded and all those things. The support of the police department, the fire department being upgraded to a Class 2 ISO rating is pretty remarkable just as a city. And so I just want to commend yourself, the council, but you've done a great job running the meetings and keeping us on order and trying to keep them definitely business oriented and succinct and a lot of things to accomplish. So let's go accomplish them. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you reading what I wrote.
You are welcome. That wasn't, I left that part out, as written by Ray Altman. City manager reports, a couple of events coming up, or just one I want to highlight right now. Well, we have the Elk Creek listening session, so hopefully that's on everybody's radar. December 5th is the Christmas Light Parade, so you'll start to see some information come out on that. Anna Potter is going to be assisting with the parade, and so there'll be information on where to get your entry and turn those in, because definitely want as many floats as we can to light up that December 5th night. So it's December 5th, 6:30 is the Christmas Light Parade for this year. So put it on your calendars. The other one, just Grant mentioned it a little bit, but we did have approximately 26 students, I believe, assist with the cleanup of the Elk Creek area, Beachfront Park area. That was on October 28th. And so I want to express our appreciation towards those students and the effort from Smith River Alliance. And that's all in conjunction with our Clean California grant as well. So a nice partnership there. And that's always good to clean up that area of Elk Creek and Beachfront Park. And then the last thing on my list for this meeting is just information in regard to the storm that's before us. So it's raining a little bit tonight. There's some winds that are coming up, but the big event is going to be starting Tuesday night. So Del Norte County does have sandbags available for those that want them. So that'll be available at the county yard 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You do have to fill your own sandbags, but they do have those available. They are expecting some pretty significant winds, so most likely above 50 miles per hour with the gusts. That's going to start about tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, lasting through the night. And the forecast that I saw over the duration of this event, which really starts to take shape Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit lighter on Thursday, back again on Friday, is over 5 inches of rain for our area. So it certainly is going to be something we're on the lookout for. We'll be having our typical pre-storm meetings that we have public works wise, making sure our generators are set, ready to go. Police department, fire department, all first responders be ready for it. So we'll see. Stay safe though as a community. Check on your neighbors. Do all those things. Continue to stay tuned for any updates.
Thank you, sir. And I just wanted to of course, we encourage everyone to recognize Veterans Day on the 11th, right? Thank you for that reminder. I just wanted to say, with being a man down on the council, I wanted to thank everyone for their continued commitment to this council body. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting to our next regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Crescent City on Monday, November 17th at 6 p.m. Good job, everybody.